Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 5 of Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from chapter 7. It felt so weird being at school all by myself. Well, obviously I wasn't literally alone. There were 28 other children in our class and nearly 500 in the whole school, and any number of teachers and classroom assistants and Mr. Maggs the caretaker, but it felt like it was one enormous echoing empty building without Alice. We'd gone to the reception class hand in hand, and we'd sat next to each other in every classroom since. I couldn't bear sitting beside Alice's empty chair and desk. I turned my back on it and hunched down until my chin rested on the table. Biscuits gave me a poke in the back with a giant Mars bar. "Hey, Gemma, how come you're suddenly so little? Have you turned into the incredible shrinking girl? You'd better have a nifty nibble on my Mars bar," he hissed. I turned around. I stared at him. My eyes burned like lasers. Biscuits looked as if he was singeing. "What? What's up? What is it? I know you're probably feeling a bit fed up without Alice. Would you like me to come and sit next to you in Alice's place?" "No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to sit next to you, even if you were my best friend, because I'd get horribly squashed on account of the fact that you are hugely fat. But as you are now my worst ever enemy, I don't even want to be in the same room as you, in the same school, street, town, country, world as you." Biscuits blinked at me in the astonishment, his Mars bar waiting in his hand. "Don't call me fat. What do you want about, Gemma? We're mates, you and me. We always have been." "Not anymore. As of yesterday," I said. "But I didn't really do anything yesterday," Biscuits protested. "You told on us," I said. "I didn't." "Well, I did tell my mum your names when she asked me." "Yes, and she phoned up and told our mums, as you very well know. And they came swooping off to the station and stopped us running away together. You ruined everything, so you can stop looking all wounded innocents, because, quite frankly, it's a sickening expression, and I might just have to punch you straight in your fat chops." I said, "Don't call me fat. I can't help it if my mum was concerned about you, and if you try punching me, I'll punch you straight back, so there." "Right," I said. "Okay, we'll fight at playtime." "You think I wouldn't hit a girl? But I would, if she hit me first." "Yeah, and I'll hit you second and third and fourth, and I'll go on hitting. Just you wait and see." I got so het up I forgot to hiss. I was practically shouting. "What on earth are you up to, Gemma Jackson?" said our teacher, Mrs. Watson. "Just pipe down, please, and get on with your work. Come along, turn round and leave Biscuits alone." "With pleasure," I muttered, and hunched back in my seat. Mrs. Watson seemed to be keeping a special eye on me. She kept looking in my direction. Towards the end of the lesson, she sidled over and peered at what I'd written in my exercise book. I held my breath. We were supposed to write a descriptive paragraph using lots of adjectives. These are describing words. I decided to describe Biscuits very graphically indeed. I'd been more than a little bit rude in places. I hurriedly scribbled over the worst part. "Too late, Gemma. I've already read it," said Mrs. Watson. I waited for her to hit the roof, but she didn't explode upwards. She sat down beside me in Alice's empty chair. "It's okay," she said softly. I stared at her. "Well, it's not okay to write a lot of abusive rhetoric in your school exercise book, especially about a nice boy like our Biscuits," Mrs. Watson corrected herself. I didn't have a clue what abusive rhetoric was, but it seemed to sum up my Biscuits paragraph pretty neatly. "Biscuits isn't nice," I mumbled. "Yes, he is, sweetie. Everyone loves Biscuits, including you. You're not really cross with him." "Yes, I am." Mrs. Watson leaned towards me and spoke in a whisper. "Aren't you really feeling miserable because Alice isn't here?" I struggled to say something. I didn't quite manage it. I felt as if two hands were round my throat, squeezing hard. My eyes were hurting too. I blinked, and 2 tears ran down my cheeks. "Oh, Gemma," said Mrs. Watson. She patted my back gently, like I was a little baby. I felt a terrible baby crying in class. I hunched down even further, so I was practically under my desk. "I know you must be missing Alice very much," said Mrs. Watson. She gave me one last pat and then went back to her desk. Missing was the most ridiculously inadequate description. I felt as if I'd been torn apart. It was like losing half of me, an eye, an ear, one lip, half a whirly brain, an arm, a leg, a lung, a kidney, and half a long snake of intestine. I wondered if Alice felt the same way. At least she wasn't stuck at school next to an empty seat. She was hurtling up the motorway to Scotland. It wouldn't be exciting for her, almost like a holiday, and she'd have a new house, and new pets, and a new school, and maybe even a new best friend. I had no one. I didn't know what to do at playtime. I always ran round with Alice, apart from the times Biscuits and I challenged each other to perform amazing feats. I remembered I'd challenged Biscuits to a proper fight. I clenched my fists. At least it would be something to do. I didn't think Biscuits would be very good at fighting. Not that it really mattered. He could squash me flat for all I cared. I went looking for Biscuits. I couldn't find him anywhere. I tried the obvious place first, but he wasn't in the tuck shop queue. I trekked the length and breadth of the playground. I searched the corridors, wondering if he might be chomping chocolate in a corner, but there was no sign of him. There was only one place he could be. A place I couldn't go. I stopped outside the boys' toilets. I waited, arms folded, tapping my toes impatiently. I waited and waited. Boys pushed past me and said stupid things. I made some short, sharp comments back to them. I wouldn't be budged, even when they barged into me. "What are you waiting for anyway, Gemma?" "I'm waiting for Biscuits," I said. "Ooh, fancy him, do you?" "I fancy sticking a skewer in him and roasting him on a spit," I said. "Go and tell him I want him to get on with our fight." "You're wasting your time, Gemma," said Jack, one of Biscuits' mates. "He's not in there." "I bet he is," I said. I had half a mind to march straight in to see for myself, but I had a feeling Mrs. Watson wouldn't remain understanding if she caught me fighting in the boys' toilets. I'd be sent to Mr. Beeton again. I couldn't go in. I had to winkle Biscuits out. I caught hold of a squinty little kid with glasses dangling skew-whiff off his nose. "Here you, do you know Biscuits? He's that big boy forever stuffing his face who's in my class." The kid nodded, trying to hitch his glasses on more securely. Everyone in the whole school knows Biscuits. "Well, I want you to come back and tell me if he's in the toilets, okay?" The kid nodded again and backed into the bogs. He was in there a while. He looked shifty when he came out. He was chewing several chocolate toffees, his mouth crammed so full he drooled unattractively. "He's not there," he mumbled, slurp running down his chin. "Oh, yes, he is. He gave you those toffees as a bribe to say that, didn't he?" I said. "No, he didn't. He gave me the toffees because he said I'm his friend," the little boy said proudly and dashed off. I took a deep breath. "Right, Biscuits, I know you're in there," I yelled. "Come on, come out, you great gutless coward." I waited until the bell rang. I waited a minute after the bell rang, and then Biscuits' head peered cautiously round the edge of the doorway. "Got you," I shouted, and ran at him. "Help!" Biscuits screamed and started waddling frantically down the corridor. "Stop! Come on, you coward, fight me!" I don't want to fight. I don't like fighting. I'm a pacifist," Biscuits burbled. He tried to run away, but I lunged forward and caught hold of him by the waistband of his huge trousers. "Get off!" Biscuits yelled. "You're pulling them down. You're going barking mad. First you want to bash me up, and now you're trying to take my trousers off. Help! I'm being attacked by a sex maniac!" "Billy McVitie, Gemma Jackson, what on earth are you playing at?" Mr. Beeton bellowed. Mr. Beeton is a horrible head teacher. He's so old and crabby. He's been at our school for centuries. He taught my dad, would you believe? Dad said he was just so crabby then, and he used to keep a cane in his stationery cupboard. Maybe the cane is still there now. "Get to your classroom at once," Mr. Beeton commanded. His arm waved in the air, as if he was holding his cane and giving us a good whacking. I ran for it. Biscuits ran too, though his trousers were halfway down his hips, so he had to hobble. He entered the classroom at least 2 minutes after me, purple in the face and panting. Mrs. Watson had simply shaken her head at me, but she told Biscuits off sharply. "Why are you so exceptionally late, Biscuits? What have you been doing?" I held my breath. Biscuits was having difficulty finding his. "Sorry, Mrs. Watson," he wheezed. "Been jogging to get fit." "Well, it doesn't look as if it's working just yet," said Mrs. Watson. "And pull your trousers up properly, lad. They look ridiculous." Biscuits grinned and adjusted his trousers by wiggling his hips like a hula-hula girl. The class collapsed. I found I was laughing too. Even Mrs. Watson had to struggle to stay stern. "Ever the clown, Biscuits," she said. "Still, perhaps we all need cheering up today." She glanced at Alice's empty seat. I did too. I wondered why I'd just been laughing when I wanted to cry and cry and cry. Chapter 8. "Oh dear, what a poor little saddo," said Grandad when he came to meet me. He held out his hand. I hung onto it like a little toddler. I didn't want to say anything because I was all choked up. There were heaps of kids from my school milling around us. I didn't want them to see me crying. I held on until we got to Grandad's block. We swooped upwards in the smelly lift, and then we were in the front door and breathing in the safe, lovely smell of toast and old books and peppermints. Grandad sat in his big soft chair, and I sat on my big soft Grandad. I put my head against his woolly pullover and howled. "There now, pet," said Grandad, holding me close. "That's it. You have a good cry." "I'm making your jumper all soggy," I sobbed. "No problem. It could do with a good wash," said Grandad. He rocked me on his knee while I went on crying. When I reached the snorty, trying to stop stage, he found his big white hanky and let me have a huge blow of my nose. "I feel such a baby," I said. "Nonsense. Everyone needs a good cry." I have a little snuffle myself every now and then, said Grandad. You don't cry, Grandad, I said. I do. I've never seen you. I do it in private. The first year your grandma died, I reckon I cried myself to sleep most nights. Oh, Grandad. I wound my arms tight around his neck. I couldn't really remember Grandma. I knew she was small, with silver curly hair and little silver glasses, but that was because of the photo on top of Grandad's television. Can you remember your Grandma? Grandad asked. Yes, of course I can, I said, because it seemed rude to say no. You can forget some ancient old auntie, but not your very own Grandma. You're a sweet little fibber, said Grandad, rubbing his nose on the top of my head. You were only 3 when she died. I can so remember her, I insisted. I racked my brains. I knew Grandma had given me my special doll, Melissa. I wished I hadn't given her to Alice now. I thought about dolls. Grandma played dolls with me. She made my Barbies dancing on one leg, like can-can ladies, I said. That's right, pet, Grandad said eagerly. She had a great sense of humour, your Gran, and she loved her dancing. That's where we met, at a dance. Proper ballroom dancing, though we liked to jive around too. We had this special routine where I whizzed her right over my head. Everyone used to clap. I can jive too, Grandad. Callum's shown me. Then what are we waiting for? Let's boogie on down, said Grandad, snapping his fingers. He tipped me off his lap and got to his feet. He started singing Blued Suede Shoes and jogging up and down in his brown corduroy slippers. I jogged around too, waving my arms in the air. Grandad grabbed my hand and twirled me around and round, and then he seized hold of me and tried to whirl me right over his shoulder. He couldn't whirl me high enough, and we collapsed in a heap. Sorry, sweetheart, said Grandad. I think maybe my jiving days are over now. You'll have to stick to our Callum for a dancing partner. He dances with Alicia now. Well, yes, that figures. I don't suppose our Jack is much of a lad for dancing. As if, I said. No, my dancing partner's always been Alice, only I'm never going to see her again. Yes, you will, darling. You can invite her to come on a visit in her holidays. Her mum wouldn't let her come. She doesn't like me, and I bet she never invites me to stay either. Anyway, how can I ever go all the way to Scotland? The train fare's far too expensive. Well, at least it's a possibility, said Grandad. He picked himself up and put the kettle on for a cup of tea. You might be able to make the trip, supposing we all saved up, or we won the lottery or whatever, whereas I know I can't ever hop on a train up to heaven to visit your grandma. Well, one day that's exactly what I'm going to do, but that's very much single-ticket territory, no chance of a return trip. Don't, Grandad, I said, because I can't stand it when he talks about dying, even if it's just a joke. You're not ever going to die, do you hear me? I'll do my best to stick around for a bit, sweetheart. Now, are you going to join me for a cup of tea? If you have a ferret in the fridge, you might just find a little treat. No iced gems today. Grandad had bought cream cakes. I opened the box and gazed at them in awe. There was a huge white meringue with a cherry on the top, a glossy chocolate eclair, a scarlet strawberry tart, and a large slice of sponge cake oozing jam and cream. Oh, yummy, yummy! Yummy, yummy, soon to be in your tummy, Grandad laughed. Go on then, Jem. You have first pick, but don't tell your mum or we'll both be for it. I know it's naughty, but I reckon my little sweetheart needed cheering up today. I can't choose. I like them all. My hand hovered over the meringue, the eclair, the tart, the sponge, circling them several times. Take 2, said Grandad. Though for God's sake, eat your tea when you get home. I will. Oh, Grandad, help, which 2? I know, said Grandad, selecting a knife. He cut the eclair neatly in half. Then the strawberry tart, making sure there were 2.5 strawberries on each side. Then he severed the sponge into 2 identical slices. He had most trouble with the meringue. The cream exploded and the meringue collapsed. I'm making a right dog's breakfast of this, said Grandad. There, you eat it all up, sweetheart. So I ate the whole meringue, glassy cherry and all, and then I ate half the eclair and the strawberry tart and the sponge. Oh, Grandad, that was the best cake feast ever, I said. My lord, you must have a tummy the size of a tank, said Grandad. Here, lick your lips. We don't want your mum spotting that cream. No, I don't need Mum to get any madder at me at this present moment in time, I said, sighing. But when Mum came to pick me up from Grandad's, she didn't have her usual fuss about food. She did tip my chin up and peer at me carefully, but she was looking at my eyes. Have you been crying, Gemma? No, I said firmly. Said Mum. Halfway home she reached out and put her arm around me. I know you're missing Alice a lot, she said. Oh, well done, Mum, I said sarcastically, wriggling away from her. Now then, madam, don't use that cheeky tone. Look, you're still in total disgrace for all your escapades yesterday. I don't care. I don't care about anything any more. Mum sighed. I know you're feeling very down. Look, Auntie Karen is my friend. I'm going to miss her. Not the way I'm going to miss Alice. Yes, all right, said Mum. I know how much Alice means to you. In fact, I've often worried about the two of you being so close. Sometimes it's more fun to have a whole bunch of friends. I don't want a bunch. I want Alice. Well, Alice is in Scotland now. They'll be there in their new house already, I expect. And I'm stuck here, I said, as we went up our garden path. I know you're feeling miserable just now, but I promise you, Gemma, you'll make new friends. You've got other friends at school. I was wondering perhaps you could invite one or two for tea sometime. I don't want anyone to tea. What about that odd boy with the grin? The one who ate up all the trifle at the party, and the ice cream and the chocolate cake and every single sausage on the stick? I especially don't want biscuits. Oh, well, I'm only trying to help. You feel sad now, but I promise you'll have forgotten all about Alice in a few weeks' time. I stared at Mum. There wasn't any point in saying anything at all. It was like we were on totally different planets. She didn't understand at all. She was doing her best to be kind to me, though, even though I was officially in total disgrace. You didn't end up eating very much yesterday one way or another, through your own fault, of course, but anyway, I thought we could make it up for it today. I'll cook your favourite spaghetti bolognese. Oh, well, thanks, Mum, I said. I remembered the last time I ate spaghetti bolognese. Maybe I didn't really fancy it today. I didn't feel very hungry at all. The 2.5 cream cakes in my tummy were taking up rather a lot of room. I've got a special pudding too, said Mum. I know how much you love cake. I went to the patisserie in my lunch hour and bought a big chocolate cream gâteau. I swallowed. Mum, the thing is, I'm really not desperately starving hungry, I said. Don't give me that, Gemma. You're always hungry, no matter what. Mum suddenly frowned. Grandad hasn't given you anything to eat, has he? No, nothing, honestly, I said. I hoped that by the time Mum had the spag bowl cooked, I really would feel hungry. I even ran laps in the garden to work up an appetite. It didn't work. I just felt sick and dizzy. What are you up to, sweetheart? Said Dad, coming out the back door. I was watching you through the window, running round and round the garden. Hey, remember that game I used to play with you when you were tiny? Round and round the garden like a teddy bear. 1 step, 2 step, and a tickly under there, I said, tickling under my own chin. Only I'm not really ticklish, only under my feet. It's Alice who's terribly ticklish. I'll say. She'd squeal and go all helpless if I even pretended to tickle her, said Dad. He put his arm around me. I'm going to miss her too, Gemma. She's been like another daughter to me. Bless her. I can't say I'll miss her folks too much. They always seemed a bit stuck up, if you ask me. Especially her mum. I stuck my chin in the air, patted my imaginary expensive hairdo, and tried out a silly, snooty Pop's voice. Yes, we're moving to this fabulous new house because my Bob's got this fantastic job opportunity and we'll have a brand new fitted kitchen with an oven here and hob there and here a hob, there a hob, everywhere a hob, 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 knob. And we all have our own private bathroom suite with a power shower like Niagara Falls. And our Alice will have a whole pack of ponies and all her posh little riding chums will come and stay with her and she'll like them and make a new best friend. Dad stopped chuckling. You're always going to be Alice's best friend, you know that, he said, ruffling my hair. Then he felt in his pocket and found a Yorkie bar. Here, pop that in your mouth, and don't tell your mum. I was feeling a bit queasy. I hoped the chocolate might settle my stomach. I wasn't so sure this was a good idea, but I didn't want to hurt Dad's feelings. It tasted fine at first, just ordinary delicious creamy milk chocolate. Then it got a bit too chocolatey. I felt as if I had a mouthful of oozy chocolate mud. I had a hard time swallowing it down. Thanks, Dad. That was totally yummy, I mumbled, my teeth still stuck together. I remembered last Easter when I had 5 big chocolate Easter eggs and 12 little ones. Biscuits bet me I couldn't eat them all in one go. I insisted I could. I was mistaken. My tummy started churning unpleasantly at the memory. I decided to go indoors. Perhaps I'd feel a bit better if I had a little flop on my bed. Callum was just coming in the front door. He had something in his hand, holding it behind his back as he walked past the kitchen door, obviously not wanting Mum to spot it. I nodded warily at him and trudged upstairs. The smell of the bolognese sauce was making me feel a lot worse. Hey, Jem, hang on a tick. Callum bounded upstairs after me. How are you feeling, little sis? Not great, I mumbled. Yeah, I thought as much, Callum said sympathetically. Well, this should cheer you up. He produced a giant whippy ice cream with strawberry sauce and 2 99 chocolate flakes. Oh, I gasped. Shh, don't let Mum hear. You know what she's like about eating things before meals. Though I don't know why she fusses so. You never ever lose your appetite. Maybe just this once. I'm not all that hungry, actually, I said, clutching my tummy. Could I maybe eat it later, Callum? But it's starting to drip a bit already. Go on, Jem, eat it up, said Callum. So I did. I licked the strawberry sauce, swallowed the ice cream, and nibbled my way along both chocolate flakes. I even crunched up the cone. Callum cheered me on all the while. "That's my little sis," he said. I staggered to my bedroom and lay on my bed, clutching my tummy. At least it was a distraction from the misery of missing Alice. I missed her so much. The smell of spaghetti bolognese got stronger and stronger and stronger. "Where are you, Gemma?" Mum called. "Tea time." I sat up very slowly. I took a deep breath. I trailed downstairs. Mum had set the table properly with her best embroidered tablecloth and the rosy plates she usually kept for visitors. The spaghetti bolognese steamed in its special big blue dish. The chocolate gâteau was there too, gleaming on the glass cake plate, oozing cream. Everyone was sitting up at the table, even Jack. They all smiled at me encouragingly. "Sit yourself down, dear," said Mum. "Right, let's get you served first." She put an extra huge portion of spaghetti bolognese on my plate. I looked at the glistening brown meat sauce and the writhing worms of spaghetti. I opened my mouth, and then suddenly I was violently sick. On the spaghetti bolognese, the chocolate gâteau, the rosy plates, the embroidered tablecloth, and my own lap. And that is where we will leave part 5 of Best Friends by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way very, very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for your support, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.